Star Wars, arguably the most recognizable franchise of all time. It has everything that any nerd can enjoy, from the iconic movies, the extended universe with books and comics, and of course, video games. Star Wars is nothing new when it comes to video games. Since the 1980s, Star Wars has always had a presence in the gaming market, going as far back as the Atari. From playing as a clone trooper in the Clone Wars, to then witnessing the rise of the Empire, acting as its enforcer as a stormtrooper, or playing as the badass Starkiller in the Force Unleashed games. I remember playing Force Unleashed and using the Force to throw around stormtroopers or using Force lightning to destroy groups of enemies. My point being that Star Wars video games have allowed gamers to fulfill their deepest power fantasies. So you'd think with a golden goose like Star Wars, LucasArts, the developers behind every major Star Wars games, would be set for life. That was before the dark times. When Disney purchased Lucasfilm for $5 billion, everything that was previously established was thrown out the window. Basically, everything you liked from the extended universe was rebranded as Legends. So if you were a fan of Starkiller, non-canon. If you liked Kyle Katarn, non-canon. All the new Jedi Order books, non-canon. That's all well and good, and until we found out that EA was going to be handling the Star Wars games for the foreseeable future. In 2015, we got our first official Star Wars game, published by EA and developed by DICE, a reboot of Star Wars Battlefront. Later on, we got some minor mobile games, but in 2017, we got Battlefront 2. For those of you who remembered Battlefront 2 on release, you'll remember that the game was played from the start with microtransaction galore. It felt like single-player games were beginning to be phased out in favor of this new thing, until a new hope arises. This is when Respawn Entertainment enters the picture. Founded by Jason West and Vince Zampella, who helped found Infinity Ward, the prominent developer behind the Call of Duty franchise, founded Respawn Entertainment in 2010 after being fired by Activision over contract disputes. That's a gross oversimplification, but after reading the Wikipedia article, the whole story is another example of company politics, with West and Zampella wanting to maintain creative control over Call of Duty. A couple of lawsuits later, and Respawn Entertainment was born. After founding Respawn, West and Zampella sought funding from EA to help produce their projects. In 2013, we got their first game, Titanfall. Obviously this isn't a Titanfall video, but this helps us set the stage for Fallen Order's development. By 2014, Stig Asmussen joined Respawn as a game director. Asmussen previously worked for Santa Monica Studio on the God of War series, which helps explain Fallen Order's gameplay. So on Star Wars Day 2016, Asmussen announced Respawn is developing an untitled third-person action-adventure game, later revealed to be Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order at E3 2018. According to a Wikipedia article, Fallen Order was not meant to be a Star Wars game until a suggestion from EA. Seeing as they had the license to publish Star Wars games, they weren't going to let their money go to waste. Eventually, Lucasfilm joins the project in a concierge role, and in 2019, Fallen Order released, achieving positive reception and selling over 10 million copies. I couldn't find much else about Fallen Order's development, so I imagine it was smooth sailing for Respawn. Jedi Fallen Order takes inspiration from a lot of different games. I'll go more in depth once we get into the gameplay. Fallen Order takes cues from games like Metroid, Dark Souls, and Legend of Zelda to name a few. So for now, hold on to that, but without further ado, let's dive into the plot synopsis. 5 years after Order 66, on the scrapyard planet of Bracca, Jedi Padawan Cal Kestis is spending his days working on scrapping old equipment while listening to some bitchin' Mongolian throat music. One day, his work friend Prof approaches Cal with the potential of scrapping old equipment for a huge payday. After traversing an incredibly dangerous job site, even for blue-collar standards, I just hope the others can parkour as well as Cal, ends up discovering a Clone Wars-era starfighter. Seeing the potential for a huge payday, Prof urges Cal to take his opportunity and use the money to leave Bracca and find his destiny. Cal rebuffs, saying that he wants to remain on Bracca, to which then Prof immediately calls Cal out on his bullshit. The conversation is interrupted when the piece of the ship they're standing on is cut and the pair are left sliding down and hanging over a massive sarlacc pit, making the one in Tatooine look like a child's toy. However, as Prof falls into the pit, Cal uses the Force to save Prof, and the pair fall on a ship, managing to get away. With Cal's cover blown, he immediately decides to leave Bracca before the Empire catches him. On the train ride home, Cal suffers a nightmare where his former master laments him, telling Cal to only trust in the Force. Upon waking up, Cal discovers that the Empire is already on his trail. when his train is stopped and the passengers are taken to be interrogated by a new set of villains introduced in the Disney canon, the Inquisitors. Led by the second sister and joined by the ninth sister, the second sister interrogates the passengers, demanding them to give up the Jedi or else. Prof steps up and makes a speech grieving over how the Empire has mismanaged them and treated them as expendable, to which the second sister immediately kills Prof, causing Cal to attack her, revealing himself. However, instead of killing Cal right then and there, the ninth sister drops Cal off a cliff, leading the Empire on a chase. After fighting his way through stormtroopers and learning the controls, a mysterious ship intervenes and shoots down an enemy ship, with the woman on board telling Cal to head for the end of the train. However, the train ends up derailed, and after hitting his head on a steel beam, Cal is left to battle the second sister. Unfortunately, Cal is not strong enough to face her, but at the right moment, the ship who helps Cal intervenes, and Cal makes his escape. Upon escaping Braca, Cal is introduced to the crew of the Mantis, Seer Junda, former Jedi Master who cut herself off in the Force, and Grease, the wisecracking captain of the ship. The trio introduce themselves and make their way to the planet Bogano. Arriving at Bogano, Seer explains why she brought Cal there. Bogano contains a Zeffo vault, an ancient civilization of Force users who mysteriously disappeared. Inside the vault contains a Jedi holocron. The holocron contains the location of all known Force-sensitive children in the galaxy. Think of holocrons as memory disks for Force users. Seer wants to obtain it to keep it out of the Empire's hands and to restore the Jedi Order. Seer needs Cal's help because she's cut herself off from the Force after a traumatic incident. Cal, being the only available Jedi at the moment, will find a way to open the vault and retrieve the holocron. In order for Cal to do that, he'll have to retrace the steps of Eno Cordova, Seer's former master. Alongside Cordova's droid companion BD-1, Cal and the others begin their journey across the galaxy to find a way to open the vault. The first location the Mantis heads to is the Zeffo homeworld of Zeffo. Keep it simple, stupid. After avoiding the Empire and landing, Cal investigates the ancient Zeffo ruins, revealing that a major clue lies at the Wookiee homeworld of Kashyyyk. After finishing his business in the ruins, and remembering Force Push, thanks to flashbacks from his Padawan training, Cal and the Mantis make their way to Kashyyyk. Arriving at Kashyyyk, our crew are caught in the middle of a battle between the Wookiees and the Empire. After diving into the water and hijacking an AT-AT, Cal manages to turn the tide of the battle, getting the attention of Saw Gerrera. Yeah, that's Saw Gerrera, from Rogue One, leader of the radical group of partisans. He's even played by the same actor, which is pretty cool. After managing to help Saw, Cal asks if he's seen Tarful, a Wookiee chieftain. Back on Zeffo, an old recording of Cordova revealed that Tarful knows the location of our next clue. But Saw won't give that information for free, so he decides to recruit Cal's help in freeing a band of Wookiees at an Imperial mining facility in exchange for getting in contact with Tarful. Cal manages to help Saw, and like he promised, he'll let him know when Tarful makes contact. With Kashyyyk taken care of for now, Cal decides to return to Zeffo and continue searching the Zeffo ruins. Once returning to Zeffo, Cal uses the abilities he's obtained to search new areas. When investigating a mine that can lead to the Tomb of Aelrum, Cal runs to the second sister once again. However, Cal is still no match for the second sister, and after Cal is knocked back, BD-1 is able to intervene before the second sister can finish Cal off. It's here we learn the identity of the second sister, Trilla Sudari, former Padawan of Seer Junda. Trilla explains that she was betrayed by her former master after Order 66, and that her rebirth as the second sister has made her stronger. After Trilla leaves, Cal manages to arrive at the Tomb of Aelrum and traverses the dungeon while Trilla mocks him over the radio. After solving some ball puzzles and regaining Force Pull, Cal manages to uncover the tool needed to unlock the vault, the Zeffo Astrium. On his way back, Cal is captured by a group of bounty hunters known as the Haxian Brood. Separated from BD-1 and the Mantis, Cal traverses the base and manages to reunite with BD-1. It's here Cal discovers he's been kidnapped to fight in the Brood's Gladiator Arena. However, the Brood is no match for Cal, and with good timing from the Mantis, Cal manages to escape. The only good part of this detour was managing to hear the throat music again. Returning to Kashyyyk, Cal discovers Saw has left the planet after the Empire counterattacked in Cal's absence. However, one of the partisans tells Cal that they've managed to make contact with Tarful. On his way, Cal meets Tarful and tells them the location of the next clue is at the top of the origin tree. While making his way there, Cal is attacked by the ninth sister and a chase to the top ensues. After managing to get away, Cal is given a ride by a bird after helping it heal its wounds. Once at the top of the tree and unlocking the double-bladed lightsaber, Cal discovers the location of the Astrium is on the planet Dathomir. On his way back, Cal is attacked by the Ninth Sister, and after defeating her, Cal returns to the Mantis. With their next destination in tow, Cal arrives at the red planet of Dathomir, and upon landing, it instantly gives me bad vibes. When Cal investigates more Zeffo ruins, he's confronted by a Night Sister, a group of witches who inhabit Dathomir and practice magic with a K. After fighting the Night Sister's minions and arriving at the tomb, Cal meets a mysterious wanderer who doesn't do Dathomir any favors besides adding to the already creepy atmosphere. After Cal is sidetracked and fights a giant bird, while being followed by the Night Sister, Cal enters the tomb and is given a Force vision from Order 66. This is my favorite scene in the game because we learn how Cal survived the fall of the Jedi, but it also plays John Williams' score from Episode 3. Cal's master Juro Tapal confronts Cal, chastising him about how weak he's become and how fear has blocked Cal's connection to the Force. Cal doesn't take it too well, to the point where he crushes his lightsaber, permanently breaking it. It doesn't help when he leaves. He's confronted by the previous Night Sister and the Wanderer, revealing himself to be Taron Malicos, a former Jedi who landed on Dathomir after Order 66, fell to the dark side, and took over the Night Brothers. Cal, left defenseless, retreats to the Mantis, where they promptly make their escape. Losing his lightsaber, Cal is ready to fall into despair until Cere intervenes and tells him what happened to Trilla. It's here we learn that after Order 66, Cere was captured and tortured by the Empire, hoping to turn her into an Inquisitor. For a while, she managed to hold on until presented with the Second Sister, and after seeing what her apprentice became, Cere tapped into the dark side and escaped. Since then, she's cut herself off from the Force. However, not all hope is lost. Cere decides that Cal is going to forge a new lightsaber, and they're going to do that by heading to Ilum, where Cal will search for a Kyber crystal hidden in the Jedi Temple. After landing and traversing his way to the temple, Cal searches the caves, but discovers the Empire already has a presence on Ilum. After searching further, and almost freezing, Cal manages to find his Kyber crystal, but it immediately shatters. On the verge of losing hope again, Cal is shown a recording of Cordova deleting BD-1's memory, explaining that only a strong bond will regain BD-1's memories. Cal, moved by this, regains his confidence and constructs his new lightsaber. After fighting through the Empire's forces and returning to the Mantis, Cal is ready to return to Dathomir and confront Malicos. Returning to Dathomir, Cal, entering the tomb, defeats the vision of his master, granting access to the deeper chambers. There, Cal is approached by the Night Sister, revealing herself to be named Merrin. She explains that after her sisters were massacred, a great callback to Season 4, Episode 19 of the Clone Wars, Merrin resented the Jedi, and this allowed Malicos to manipulate her and take control of the Night Brothers. Deciding to rid Dathomir of Malicos, Merrin agrees to help Cal, and after Cal battles Malicos, Merrin finishes him by suffocating him under the arena. A really brutal way to go. With Malicos defeated, Cal is able to finally retrieve the Astrium, and with nowhere to go, Merrin decides to join Cal on his journey. With a full crew on board and a lively introduction, Cal returns to Bogano, ready to unlock the vault. At the vault, Cal is given another Force vision, this time warning him that if he takes the Force-sensitive children, the Empire will discover them and destroy Cal's Jedi Academy, alongside transforming Cal into an Inquisitor. Despite the warning, Cal manages to finally retrieve the holocron, until the Second Sister arrives and immediately takes it from him. But before she escapes, Cal retrieves her lightsaber and relives Trilla's memory of becoming the Second Sister. Thankfully, Cere knows where Trilla is heading, the Fortress Inquisitorius, where the Inquisitors are born. Cal, after being knighted by Cere, begins their preparations to infiltrate the fortress and take the holocron back. Once the Mantis arrives, Merrin is able to use her magic to cloak the Mantis while Cal and Cere begin their infiltration. After making his way through the fortress and causing as much collateral damage as possible, Cal and Cere reunite at the prison block after Cere puts on an impressive display of using a lightsaber and blaster, which only makes me want to do that, but I'll have to wait until I play Jedi Survivor. Either way, once Cal arrives at the torture chamber, Cal is now strong enough to battle the Second Sister, who puts on a good challenge since she's the final boss, but Cal is able to defeat Trilla and take back the holocron just as Cere arrives. Here is when Cere forgives Trilla and pleads with her to forgive her as well. The moment is cut short when fucking Darth Vader arrives and immediately kills Trilla for her failure. Cal is no match for Vader simply because he has no health bar, runs away, and before he can escape, Vader is one step ahead. Before he's able to finish Cal, Seer intervenes, and while the two are distracted, Cal breaks the window and swims to the surface while holding on to Seer. It isn't until Merrin teleports in that she's able to save the two Jedi. Now with the holocron in their possession, the group debates what they'll do, and Cal decides that the fate of the children should be trusted to the Force, to which he destroys the holocron, marking when their next adventure begins. For a first installment, I think Jedi Fallen Order did a fantastic job setting up a new series. The plot itself is very isolated and linear in its presentation. It has no overall bearing on the movies, minus some Easter eggs here and there. In many ways, Fallen Order reminds me a lot of Episode 4 in that regard. You have the young hero trying to find his place in the galaxy, the mentor who propels the hero on their journey, you find out the villain chasing you had a previous relationship with the mentor, you have the wisecracking pilot, and the droid companion. On top of that, you infiltrate a fortress to rescue an important item, from a certain perspective. Like our main lead, Cal Kestis. I think he's one of the best original characters introduced in the Disney canon. At the start, Cal has a very sympathetic backstory and motivation. He lost the only family he knew during Order 66, and the loss of his master has troubled him since, resulting in his damaged connection with the Force. But as the game progresses, Cal begins to gain his confidence and remember his previous abilities. The best example is his fights with the Second Sister. As Cal progresses in his journey and becomes a Jedi Knight, Cal at the end is able to defeat the Second Sister. Cal's story and the theme of Fallen Order is about moving on from the past and claiming your destiny. Seer also suffers the same problems as Cal. Confronting her former Padawan reborn as the Second Sister, she fulfills her role as being the mentor for Cal when he needs advice or guidance. Grease gets less of an arc in Fallen Order. He's meant to serve as the comic relief character. However, there are moments when he's able to help Cal, passing on his own advice, like when he tells Cal to forgive Seer. As for Merrin, well, to start, her Night Sister magic is able to help the crew during the endgame, but besides that, she doesn't get a lot of screen time, minus some banter with the others. She's able to relate to Cal because she too lost her family. I understand Fallen Order is setting up a relationship between the two, which is developed in Jedi Survivor. As for Trilla, I really like when villains have this recurring threat to the protagonist. You fight her a total of 4 times throughout the game. Each time, Cal is getting progressively stronger. Trilla's resentment towards her master is ripped right from Obi-Wan and Vader. Meanwhile, her hatred of Seer stems from her jealousy being replaced by Cal. It isn't until the end that Trilla is able to forgive her master, her final words being to avenge us. So with a good first installment narratively, the follow-up question should be, what about the gameplay? Like I said in the beginning, Fallen Order is inspired from different genres. The combat is most inspired from the Souls games. The term Souls-like is thrown around when describing games with linear level design and challenging but simple combat. Cal's moveset consists of a Jedi's weapon, his lightsaber, and the Force. When it comes to using his lightsaber, Cal begins his arsenal with simple swings, being able to inflict damage on an enemy, while being able to block incoming projectiles and enemies with melee weapons. Melee enemies like the Scout Troopers or Night Brothers will have a white meter underneath their health bar. You can deplete the meter by attacking them or by timing a well-placed parry. Parrying is how you're going to inflict the most damage on an enemy. A successful parry will leave the enemy open. If their health is low enough, Cal will perform a finisher. You can block attacks by holding the block button, however Cal contains a stamina meter. If it's depleted, Cal will stagger, leaving him open. Against ranged enemies, a well-timed block can deflect the shot back at an enemy. Sometimes an enemy will glow red, meaning that Cal will have to dodge the attack. The visual cue is easy to spot, but there's also an audio cue, which is useful in group combat. At the start, Cal begins with a single-bladed lightsaber, a very utilitarian weapon. However, once you get to the top of the origin tree, Cal unlocks the double-bladed lightsaber, which is so much fun to use. It's designed with group combat in mind. My favorite move to do is the spin attack, especially against enemies with no shields, like the zombie Night Sisters. After repairing his lightsaber, Cal unlocks the split blade. The only new thing it adds is Cal unlocking new moves while blocking and changing his throw animation. And using it only makes me wish we got a dual wield stance, but I guess I have to play Jedi Survivor to do that. You can freely switch between the two forms on whatever version you're playing. But being a Jedi, Cal also has access to the Force. At the start, because Cal's connection is damaged, he begins with Force Stasis, which I had to look up on the wiki to see what it was called. It slows down enemies in place, allowing Cal to bypass their defenses. Later upgrades give Cal the ability to slow down a group of enemies. It's really useful on one-on-one encounters, like against Purge Troopers or the wild animals you encounter. I'm not a big fan of the stronger variations, because you have to spend a couple of seconds charging, and when you're fighting a group of enemies, with ranged weapons, you're left vulnerable, and by the time you have it, you're shot by a blaster and the move is cancelled. But it's not the only ability. Later on, Cal unlocks Force Push, letting him push objects to solve puzzles and enemies to their impending doom. I love using it against Purge Troopers because it's the ultimate fuck you. The last ability you unlock is Force Pull. Like Force Push, it lets Cal solve puzzles, but later upgrades can have Cal pull enemies towards him, impaling them, which is fucking brutal. Imagine getting pulled against your will to then get impaled by a lightsaber. It only works against grunts. Stronger enemies like Purge Troopers will counterattack, negating the pull, which only makes Force Push even better. Unfortunately, the Force isn't free, as Cal has a Force meter that drains with each use in combat, and you gain it back by damaging and defeating enemies. When solving puzzles, there is no meter. I think the explanation for this is that combat takes a more mental toll on Cal, but I'm only assuming that. There are of course other abilities Cal can unlock, like increased health, force, or more combat abilities. Another one of my favorites is Leap, which is great for closing the gap on ranged enemies. Unlocking new abilities outside of story progression is as simple as gaining skill points. Skill points are obtained by defeating enemies, completing objectives, and obtaining Force Echoes. When playing Fallen Order, you'll run into different types of enemies. The most common one you'll encounter is the Empire. Continuing the trend of Stormtroopers being cannon fodder, you'll encounter Scout Troopers with batons, Stormtroopers with rifles, machine guns, and rocket launchers, alongside the stronger Captain variant, to probe droids and security droids, which with an unlock from BD1 can turn them into allies. But nothing compares to the Purge Troopers. These guys are mean and built with battling Jedi in mind. They come in different forms and each have their own gimmick. Prepare yourself for these fights, or just push them off a cliff. That works too. You'll also encounter a lot of hostile wildlife on the planets you explore, giant bugs, and a Tasmanian devil. After a while, they go down like any other enemy. There's also the Knight Brothers on Dathomir. They resist your weaker force attacks, but if you have the upgrades, they go down just like the Stormtroopers. While exploring, there are times when you'll encounter a mini-boss. The mini-bosses are reskinned in stronger variations of previous enemies. They always guard upgrades for Cal to acquire. After escaping the Haxian brood, they'll begin appearing in previous explored areas, and they always work in teams of 2, consisting of a rifleman and droid. Always take out the rifleman first. He'll shoot from afar, and sometimes he'll charge you with a shield attack, which is pretty annoying. When it comes to boss fights, this is when Fallen Order will challenge you. Until the endgame, your encounters with the second sister are always scripted. As for the ninth sister, her boss fight will see if you understand the game's mechanics. However, my favorite boss fight is the Terran Malicos fight. To win this fight, you have to use the parry effectively. Malicos has 2 lightsabers, and will attack very aggressively up close. If you keep your distance, Malicos will throw one of his lightsabers or throw boulders at you. But with a well-timed force push, you'll push the boulder back, canceling the attack. After beating the game, you'll unlock the Meditation Arena. Here you can customize battles, whatever you want, or tackle challenges. You can even battle Inquisitor Cal, and it's pretty challenging if you're not prepared. I didn't spend too long in the arena because there's nothing much to do. Shifting perspective to exploration, when asked to describe Fallen Order's exploration, people will point to the Metroidvania genre as an inspiration. A common trope of the genre is the non-linear exploration and using new abilities to uncover secrets in previous explored areas. Fallen Order keeps that spirit, however, I think Metroidvania is the wrong comparison. I think Legend of Zelda is a better comparison. In the Zelda games, when you acquired a new item or a skill in a dungeon, you could use that new ability to unlock previous areas that were unexplored and acquire upgrades like heart containers. When you break it down, both games are inherently linear. Linear level design is never a bad thing. It rewards the player for their mastery of the game. When you're exploring planets, Cal is able to do a handful of things. Important story objectives will be highlighted on your map. Cal is able to uncover chests that contain cosmetic items for his lightsaber and some fashionable ponchos. Honestly, after playing the game, I want to own a poncho now. Meanwhile, the quantity of secrets and chests will be placed on the lower left. Finding chests and force echoes are up to the player, being able to use all of Cal's traversable skills. Cal is able to traverse spaces by using parkour. It's similar to Nathan Drake of the Uncharted series. For Cal's force abilities, Cal will have moments where he remembers his training, like the wall run and double jump. When wall running, Cal will only be able to run for a brief period of time. You can reset it by running on an adjacent wall. Double jump is self-explanatory. Cal will do a second jump, making platforming more easier. All of these abilities are used simultaneously to explore areas and uncover secrets. But Cal isn't alone on this journey. Cal is joined by BD1. I didn't forget about him. I just saved the best for last.
I don't know what you're saying.
BD1 serves as Cal's companion when outside the Mantis. He's used to look at the map and heal Cal when he's wounded. Throughout the planet you explore, BD1 can scan objects, giving more lore about the planet you're currently on. You'll also find stim canisters, which increase the maximum of stims BD1 can carry. Cal in his travels will come across workbenches, letting him equip BD1 with new gadgets. One of my favorites is the droid override. When a security droid is at low health, it'll be incapacitated, and seeing stormtroopers being bitch-slapped is way too entertaining. As for the planets you'll explore in your journey, I'm glad to say Fallen Order offers a variety of planets with different environments and challenges. Bracca is your tutorial planet, letting you get used to the traversal and combat. Bogano is when you'll start to develop your skills with a lightsaber and learn the wall run. It's the World 1-1 of Fallen Order. Nothing much to say besides that. During your first trip to Bogano, you'll unlock Zeffo and Dathomir's explorable planets. I chose to head to Zeffo, and this planet is Fallen Order's design at its worst. Confusing level design and a massive map makes Zeffo the worst planet to explore. Do yourself a favor and get all the secrets after you unlock all of Cal and BD1's abilities. The less I come back to Zeffo, the better. Kashyyyk, on the other hand, isn't that bad. The wildlife can be annoying, especially the giant spiders or explosive beetles, but it's much better than Zeffo. Dathomir is the next planet. You can travel there at the beginning of the game, but I recommend you finish Zeffo and Kashyyyk. Dathomir was my favorite planet during my playthrough. The Red Canyon combined with the occult aesthetic of the Night Sisters makes Dathomir look like a horror movie. As for Ilum and Nur, Ilum hosts the Jedi Temple. I liked the callback it made to the Clone Wars, with Cal having to take the Gathering like the younglings did. Nur isn't much to write home about. It serves as the final area, with the dojo being a standout, as it's the Empire throwing all the enemies you've encountered in your journey. With the exception of Zeffo, Fallen Order's planets differ in a way that allows them to have their own identity. In the end, Jedi Fallen Order proved to be a successful release for Respawn Entertainment. In 2021, Fallen Order sold over 20 million copies and was praised by critics. For many fans who felt contempt for Disney's treatment of Star Wars, Fallen Order at least was a win in the Disney era. It's ironic that a video game developer can reignite the fans' love of Star Wars more than Hollywood can. Overall, if you're a fan of Star Wars and have the time, pick up Fallen Order. It has great combat and fun exploration. It's always on sale during seasonal events on all major platforms, so getting a copy isn't that hard. But now's the time to end the video. The next time we see Cal Kestis, it'll be in Star Wars Jedi Survivor, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and Happy New Year's.